The Galactic Council's main chamber was usually a place of composed diplomacy, where species from across the galaxy gathered to debate, negotiate, and compromise. But today, tension filled the air. Representatives murmured, casting uneasy glances at the human diplomat who had recently arrived, as a report detailing humanity's war technology circulated through the Council. Species who had once dismissed humans as insignificant or backward now spoke in low, anxious tones, and even the most battle-hardened ambassadors betrayed a flicker of unease. The report was clear. Humanity's warships were unlike anything the Council had seen, and more concerningly, their power far surpassed what the Council considered acceptable for warfare. The Council had long maintained specific standards for intergalactic weaponry, rules that limited firepower to reduce collateral damage and prevent any single species from tipping the balance of power. These regulations had kept the peace for centuries, preserving stability across vast territories. However, humanity, new to the galactic stage, seemed oblivious to or unbound by these constraints. Their warships boasted weapons systems that were efficient, advanced, and by Council standards, devastating. It wasn't just the raw power of their weaponry, it was the sophistication and adaptability of their tactics, the precision of their strikes, and the sheer resilience of their vessels. To the Council, it was almost intimidating. Several Council members began proposing urgent measures to address what they called the human issue. They whispered among themselves, eyes glancing warily toward the human diplomat, as ideas for curbing humanities might range from forced disarmament to imposing strict sanctions. Yet, some members voiced dissent, calling for caution. One ambassador argued that humans had shown restraint thus far, engaging only in conflicts where they were attacked first, or where allies had called for help. They reminded the Council that, unlike some galactic species, humanity had not yet sought expansion, nor had they demonstrated aggression toward weaker civilizations. Nonetheless, the fear was palpable. What if humanity's restraint had merely been a pretense? What if their ambitions were greater than they let on? The Council called for an official audience with the human diplomat, named Alara Quinn, who was chosen not just for her diplomatic skills but also her extensive knowledge of humanity's military ethics. When she entered the chamber, her calm demeanor barely hinted at the brewing storm. She could sense the tension, the distrust hanging in the air, yet she stood with the same unyielding resolve that humans were known for. Facing the Council members who were murmuring among themselves, Alara spoke first, her voice measured and calm, addressing the unspoken question everyone had on their minds. "Esteemed Council members," she began, meeting each gaze with a steady resolve, "I understand your concerns. You see our ships, our defenses, and you wonder what it means for the galaxy. You question our intentions and ask if humanity will respect the peace you've built. But I assure you, our might does not equate to hostility. Our strength was not developed to conquer or control but to protect our people and, by extension, our allies." The room fell into a hush as she continued. She explained humanity's history, of their evolution through millennia of struggle and survival on a world that was often harsh and unforgiving. The human race had developed its technology, especially its military capabilities, out of necessity, not ambition. Earth's history was one of near-constant adversity, facing natural disasters, wars, and internal conflicts that forced them to innovate, to learn, and to grow stronger. Their powerful ships were simply an extension of that survival instinct, of a need to ensure that they were never defenseless, never caught off guard. One of the elder ambassadors, a species with a reputation for pacifism, raised his voice in a tone that mixed curiosity with apprehension. "Humanity has chosen to develop weapons that many here consider excessive. We have worked hard to ensure peace through regulated strength. Yet you, humans, seem indifferent to these agreements. Are we to believe you truly have no ambitions beyond mere defense?" Alara responded without hesitation, her voice carrying a calm conviction. "Ambassador, it is not indifference but principle. We understand the value of peace as well as anyone here. But we also understand that peace is only as strong as the will to defend it. Our history has shown us that deterrence is often the best protection. That strength, used responsibly, can be the most effective shield against violence. Some council members shifted uncomfortably, sensing the truth in her words but unwilling to abandon their suspicions. One particularly vocal member, representing a militant species known for their rigorous adherence to the council's rules, voiced his opposition. "Diplomat Quinn, your words may sound reasonable, but history has shown that unchecked power is a threat to all. You humans are newcomers to this galaxy. You lack the wisdom of centuries that we have used to craft our laws. How can we trust that you, with your deterrent, will not one day become an aggressor?" Alara took a steadying breath, fully aware that this was the crux of their fears. She looked around the room, her gaze both resolute and empathetic. "You're right to be cautious, Ambassador. Trust is earned, not given freely. But ask yourselves this: have humans, at any point, shown a desire to impose our will on others? Our military is a means of defense, and we will not apologize for ensuring the safety of our people. But I assure you, our intention is not to disrupt, but to contribute to a balanced and secure galaxy. Humanity has fought long and hard to understand the cost of conflict, and we are perhaps more aware than most of the price of peace." The council chamber fell silent once again, the weight of her words settling over them. Some representatives exchanged thoughtful glances, their initial fear tempered by a reluctant respect. Others remained unmoved, still wary of the power humanity wielded. The elder ambassador who had first questioned her gave a nod, signaling that her words had at least been acknowledged, if not wholly accepted. Then, one of the younger council members, known for their pragmatic approach, spoke up, breaking the silence. "Perhaps, then, there is a compromise to be found here. Humanity's strength could indeed be a valuable asset to this galaxy, if used judiciously, and under council oversight. A formal alliance may allow us to monitor, to understand, and, perhaps, to trust." A murmur of agreement echoed through the room, and Alara seized the opportunity, sensing a shift. "Humanity is open to collaboration," she assured them, "to proving our intentions through action. But let it be clear, we cannot and will not disarm. We will not make ourselves vulnerable to appease fears that we have done nothing to incite. We are prepared to work with the Council, but our sovereignty and our defense remain our responsibility." With those final words, the Council knew a choice had to be made. Humanity's power was a reality they could no longer ignore, and it was clear that the human race would not yield to threats or suspicions. For the first time, a species had entered their ranks not with appeals for protection but with an offer of strength, and a steadfast refusal to abandon its own principles. The chamber was still, yet beneath the surface, a torrent of thoughts and anxieties swirled. Alara's words had struck deeper than most council members would admit, as they weighed the implications of humanity's stance. The council had always operated on a foundation of mutual restraint, a balance that minimized individual power to maintain collective harmony. To some, humanity's unyielding position was a threat, a disruption to the order they had meticulously preserved. But others, those who had experienced the fragility of their peace in recent skirmishes with more aggressive factions, saw something else: potential. As Alara awaited their response, her mind returned to Earth's history and the deep-seated values that guided humanity's resolve. Centuries of warfare had taught humans that true peace required more than treaties and handshakes. It required resilience and readiness. She thought of the wars that had scarred Earth, each leaving behind hard lessons that shaped their approach to diplomacy and defense. Humanity had learned that power, when used responsibly, could deter violence more effectively than words. And now, standing before this council, she recognized the same hesitancy that had once clouded her own planet's path to peace, a reluctance to acknowledge that sometimes, strength is the only shield against chaos. The council elder who had spoken earlier cleared his throat, drawing the attention of the room back to him. He began carefully, as though treading on thin ice. "Ambassador Quinn, you must understand that our concern is not unfounded. The Council's regulations exist precisely to prevent any one species from wielding excessive power. This is the foundation upon which our unity rests. If humanity refuses to comply with these limitations, we risk dismantling that unity." His voice, though diplomatic, carried an edge, a reminder that the Council's authority was not to be taken lightly. Alara nodded, her gaze unwavering. Elder, I understand and respect the value of unity. But consider this. What you perceive as excessive is, to us, a reasonable response to the dangers we know all too well. Humanity's weapons are a testament not to our desire for dominance but to our determination to protect ourselves and those who rely on us. I assure you, our strength does not threaten your unity. Instead, it can fortify it. The younger council member, the one who had proposed a potential alliance, leaned forward, intrigued. Ambassador Quinn, you speak of using your strength to protect others. Would humanity, then, consider defending those who cannot defend themselves? Would your people uphold the Council's values by intervening when needed to maintain peace? Alara paused, sensing the weight of the question. It was an offer, albeit cautious, to see humanity not as a rogue power but as a potential ally in the galaxy's defense. She chose her words carefully. Yes, we would. Humanity values life and peace as much as any species here. We are prepared to stand with the Council to protect those who seek safety and stability. But, she continued, her tone firm, we will do so on terms that respect our autonomy. We will not disarm or compromise our defenses, not when doing so endangers our people. Murmurs spread throughout the chamber as council members exchanged glances. Some nodded in agreement, while others looked wary, unwilling to concede to a species they still barely understood. For decades, the council had maintained peace by imposing uniformity, forcing all members to adopt standardized weapons and technology. Humanity's defiance of this approach felt, to some, like a breach of the very foundation of their unity. But to others, humanity's strength offered something new, a deterrent against the galaxy's more volatile factions, those who respected only power. Seeing the internal conflict among the representatives, the elder spoke again, his voice now softer, almost contemplative. Your words resonate, Ambassador. But understand that peace, true peace, is fragile. It is maintained by collective agreement, not by the strength of any one species. I ask you this. If humanity's power were ever to threaten this balance, what assurances do we have that you will not become the very threat you seek to defend against? Alara's expression grew serious, and she met his gaze with a steady resolve. Elder, if humanity ever threatens the peace we seek to protect, then it is our own integrity that will hold us accountable. Our strength comes with responsibility, a duty we do not take lightly. But let me ask you this. If we willingly submit to disarmament, if we weaken ourselves to appease fears, who will protect this council when danger arises? Will those who threaten peace show restraint because you have none? The elder hesitated, caught off guard by her logic. He looked around, gauging the reactions of his fellow council members. The younger ambassador who had proposed the alliance stood again, his voice carrying a new tone of conviction. Perhaps humanity's perspective is one we need to consider. The galaxy has changed, and threats have grown more unpredictable. Perhaps it is time to rethink our approach, to adapt rather than impose the same limits that were set centuries ago. If humanity is willing to defend our shared values, should we not welcome their strength rather than fear it? The chamber grew tense as the council members weighed his words. For some, the idea of allowing a powerful, unregulated ally into their ranks was unsettling. Yet, for others, it was a necessary adaptation in a galaxy that had become increasingly volatile. Alara watched as alliances formed and dissolved in silent glances, the representatives debating internally whether to embrace humanity or impose restrictions upon them. Finally, the elder spoke once more, his voice steady but resigned. It seems we stand at a crossroads. Humanity's presence challenges us to reconsider our principles, our assumptions about strength and peace. Perhaps it is time we acknowledge that power, when wielded responsibly, can be a force for good. He looked at Alara, a hint of reluctant respect in his gaze. But know this, Ambassador Quinn, humanity will be watched closely. We will hold you to your word, and we expect you to uphold the values of this council. Should your strength ever overstep its purpose, we will not hesitate to act. Alara inclined her head in acknowledgement. Understood, Elder. Humanity welcomes this responsibility and stands ready to prove our intentions. Our power is not a weapon against the Council, but a shield to protect it. With her words, a subtle yet profound shift took place within the council. Humanity, once seen as a potential threat, had become a reluctant ally, a new pillar in the galaxy's defense. The tension in the room began to ease, replaced by a cautious optimism. The decision was made: humanity would retain their strength, but they would be accountable to the Council, their actions scrutinized to ensure that their power served the greater good. As the Council session concluded, Alara felt a sense of accomplishment tempered by the weight of responsibility. Humanity had been granted the chance to stand among the galaxy's protectors, to use their strength not to dominate but to defend. The path ahead would be fraught with challenges and scrutiny, but for now, humanity had earned its place in the Council, not as conquerors, but as guardians prepared to uphold the fragile peace they all valued so deeply. As the Council members filed out, the atmosphere shifted from intense to cautiously optimistic, though some still exchanged glances laden with doubt. Alara could feel the weight of the Council's eyes on her, and she knew that humanity's new position came with heightened scrutiny. Many were uneasy, wondering if they had made the right choice or merely opened the door to an unpredictable power. Alara was fully aware that one misstep could unravel the fragile alliance she had just helped forge, and the path forward would require vigilance, diplomacy, and constant demonstration of humanity's commitment to peace. After the meeting, Alara was approached by a few ambassadors who had seemed more open-minded during the debate. They wanted to better understand humanity's intentions and discuss potential areas of collaboration. One of them, a senior diplomat from the Zellorian system, who had remained largely quiet throughout the session, stepped forward. His imposing stature and deep, resonant voice carried a weight of authority that made others pause. He spoke with a tone of genuine curiosity rather than the veiled suspicion of some of his colleagues. "Ambassador Quinn, if I may, humanity's stance intrigues me. It is not often that a species new to the Council can command such a presence. Tell me, if you are willing, what drives humanity's readiness for war in times of peace?" Alara regarded him thoughtfully, understanding the importance of her answer. "Our history is filled with conflict, Ambassador. We come from a world that taught us the value of resilience. For centuries, humans have seen the consequences of being unprepared, of hoping for peace while failing to defend it. We've faced threats that nearly tore us apart, but each struggle has reinforced our commitment to safeguarding what we hold dear. We have learned that peace can only be truly preserved when we have the strength to deter those who would disrupt it. That readiness is not for aggression but for protection." The Zellorian ambassador listened intently, nodding as he processed her words. "Perhaps our views are not so different then. While our worlds may seem dissimilar, it appears that struggle has bred strength in both our peoples. It is comforting to know that humanity does not seek expansion or conquest but rather security." He paused, casting a glance at the other ambassadors who had gathered around them. "If we are to forge an alliance, perhaps your people's experience with resilience can be a valuable asset for us all." The ambassadors around them murmured in agreement, a few nodding thoughtfully. Alara sensed an opportunity, a chance to demonstrate that humanity's strength was not a threat but a benefit. "Humanity would be honored to contribute our knowledge, our skills, and our strength to protect the values we all share. We recognize that our power can be unsettling, but we wish to use it responsibly. Let us work together to create a galaxy where peace is preserved by cooperation, not fear." Encouraged by her sincerity, the ambassadors proposed the first step of their newfound alliance. Humanity could play a role in bolstering the defenses of the Council's most vulnerable member planets, some of which had recently faced aggressions from rogue factions. This would allow humanity to demonstrate their intentions openly while easing the Council's concerns by providing security where it was most needed. Back on Earth, the news of the Council's decision to permit humanity's full membership spread rapidly. The reaction was mixed. Some cheered the opportunity for humanity to take on a leadership role in galactic peacekeeping, seeing it as a proud testament to human strength and unity. Others, however, worried about the implications of this new responsibility, concerned that it could lead to entanglement in conflicts not of their own making. Alara understood these concerns well and felt the weight of her people's expectations as she prepared for the next steps. In the days that followed, she worked tirelessly, coordinating with Council representatives and assembling a fleet of human ships equipped to assist with patrols and security efforts along the Council's borders. This mission, dubbed Operation Shield, was designed to allow humanity to act in a protective capacity without appearing overly dominant. The presence of human ships patrolling alongside the Council's own fleets sent a clear message: humanity was committed to peace, and their might would be used to safeguard, not to control. Despite these efforts, some Council members remained wary, voicing their concerns in private circles. Rumors circulated about humanity's true intentions, with speculation that humans might use their new role as a stepping stone to amass influence. Alara anticipated this, knowing that change always bred resistance. But she was determined to prove, not with words, but with consistent action, that humanity's promise to the Council was steadfast. As Operation Shield unfolded, reports of human and Council forces working side by side began to reach the Council's core worlds. Stories emerged of human engineers improving shield technology on Council ships, human tacticians coordinating seamlessly with other species, and human medics providing aid to soldiers injured in border skirmishes. The impact was undeniable. Trust, though tentative, began to grow as the Council saw firsthand the depth of humanity's commitment. One particular incident cemented this newfound respect. During a routine patrol, a human warship intercepted a distress signal from a Council colony under attack by an unknown aggressor. The human captain, without hesitation, coordinated a defense strategy, skillfully rallying nearby Council ships and leading a counterattack that saved countless lives. The captain's quick thinking and the ship's advanced weaponry proved crucial in repelling the invaders, a fact that did not go unnoticed by the Council. News of the successful defense spread like wildfire, turning even the skeptics into reluctant admirers. Council representatives publicly commended the human crew for their bravery and skill, acknowledging that, had it not been for their intervention, the colony might have been lost. Humanity's reputation as defenders rather than aggressors began to solidify, and for the first time, the Council saw their alliance with humanity as a genuine strength rather than a risk. Alara received messages of gratitude and support from Council members who had once questioned her, their initial reservations replaced by respect. She knew, however, that this was only the beginning. Humanity's role in the galaxy was still taking shape, and the responsibility they had taken on required constant vigilance. Yet, as she reviewed the reports and saw the positive impact humanity was making, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. In that moment, Alara realized that humanity had not only gained acceptance but had also found a calling in this vast galaxy. They were no longer mere observers or newcomers. They were defenders, guardians of peace, bound not by regulations alone but by a shared commitment to protect the innocent. Humanity's strength, once a source of fear, had become a beacon of hope. The success of Operation Shield had a profound impact, not only on the Galactic Council's perception of humanity, but also on the morale of the humans themselves. For the first time in their interstellar history, humans were not only part of the galaxy, they were actively shaping it. Council reports poured in, detailing successful defenses, joint rescue missions, and instances where human courage had turned the tide in tense skirmishes. However, this influence came with an unexpected consequence. Many factions began questioning their own roles in the Council. Could they keep pace with humanity's blend of adaptability and relentless commitment to protecting the innocent? But as humanity's reputation grew, so did the attention of those who viewed their actions as a direct challenge. Rumors began circulating about distant factions rallying against the Council's decision to incorporate such a powerful new member. Dissidents, particularly those who had long opposed the Council's authority, saw humanity's sudden influence as a threat to the established balance. Whispers of rogue alliances and calls for insurrection simmered in the outer systems. A particularly vocal group, the Coalition of Sector, accused the Council of endangering galactic peace by allying with a race that had such a volatile history. Alara was not surprised by these reactions. She had anticipated pushback, especially from those who had previously benefited from a divided and cautious Council. But her concern lay less with the dissidents and more with the question of how the Council itself would respond. Would they continue to trust humanity, or would the fear of retaliation fracture the unity they had only just begun to build? In response, Alara proposed a diplomatic mission, an opportunity for humanity to address the concerns head-on, to engage in dialogue with the dissenting factions. She knew that transparency was key to sustaining their alliance. Humanity had to show the galaxy that they sought peace above all else, even in the face of hostility. The Council agreed, though not without reluctance, sending her with a small delegation to the edge of Council-controlled space, where the coalition of Sector had agreed to a formal meeting. Upon arriving, Alara and her team were met with cold, scrutinizing gazes. Sector's representatives, known for their rigid, traditional approach to diplomacy, were less than receptive. Their leader, High Overseer Tarek, began the meeting with an air of impatience, his expression indicating that he considered this a waste of time. Without any formalities, he addressed Alara directly. "Ambassador Quinn, humanity has already disrupted a delicate peace. Your so-called protection only stirs more conflict. Are you here to justify your actions, or will you admit that your presence is more of a threat than a safeguard?" Alara met his gaze steadily, unfazed by his attempt to provoke her. "High Overseer Tarek, humanity does not seek to disrupt. We act out of a commitment to protect, especially those who cannot defend themselves. We understand that our strength can be perceived as a threat, and that's precisely why we are here, to assure you, and any who share your concerns, that humanity's actions are aligned with the Council's mission of peace and unity." Tarek's eyes narrowed. "Peace is rarely achieved by weapons, Ambassador. You may claim that you protect, but your fleets carry firepower that exceeds anything seen in the Council's history. How can we trust that you will not use this power to further your own ambitions?" Alara paused, choosing her words carefully. "Our history, High Overseer, is indeed one of struggle. Humanity has endured conflicts that nearly led to our extinction. And because of that, we are perhaps uniquely attuned to the devastation that unchecked power can cause. But it has also taught us restraint. Every time we extend our strength, it is with the utmost caution. We have no interest in conquest, no desire to dominate. Our mission is, and will remain, to protect. To ensure that no one suffers needlessly if we can prevent it." A murmur rippled through the coalition's ranks, a flicker of doubt tempered by the slightest hint of understanding. Some of the representatives glanced at each other, perhaps sensing a sincerity in her words that they hadn't anticipated. Tarek, however, remained skeptical. "Words are easy, Ambassador Quinn. Trust, however, must be earned. Tell me, how do you intend to prove that your power will not lead to oppression?" Alara met his challenge with an unwavering gaze. "High Overseer, let us prove ourselves through action. We are willing to collaborate on joint missions with coalition forces, to place our crews under joint command if that is what it takes. Humanity's power will remain accountable, not only to the Council but to every ally willing to work alongside us." Tarek's stern expression softened slightly, though his reluctance was still evident. "Joint missions? An interesting proposal, though risky. Yet perhaps it is the only way to truly understand your motives." In that tense moment, Alara could sense a shift. By offering to share control, to entrust their capabilities to a collective oversight, humanity had extended a gesture of transparency few could deny. Slowly, the coalition's skepticism gave way to cautious optimism. After hours of discussions, Tarek and his council finally agreed to a trial period for the joint missions. It was far from a wholehearted acceptance, but it was a step forward. Returning to the council's base, Alara knew that this was only the beginning of a long journey. Humanity's place in the galaxy had been solidified, but so had their responsibilities. The joint missions would require trust, patience, and a willingness to adapt, a test not only for humanity but for the entire Council as they navigated this new alliance together. The next month saw human and coalition forces working side by side in patrols, humanitarian missions, and peacekeeping efforts across the galaxy. These missions, while challenging, became a proving ground for mutual respect. Where once there had been suspicion and hostility, a sense of camaraderie began to grow. Stories emerged of coalition and human soldiers saving each other in combat, of scientists from both sides sharing insights that advanced their shared technology, of leaders learning to bridge the gaps that had once divided them. Alara watched as the galaxy transformed, knowing that humanity's journey in the stars was far from over. Every mission, every success, and every alliance they formed brought them closer to a future where their strength was no longer a source of fear, but of hope, a powerful reminder that even the most unlikely alliances could build something greater than they had ever imagined.